about water and urban places. This is Ideanthro.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. And welcome back to another That's Like WSUD episode, where we take an idea or a concept that we've come across somehow and relate it back to water-sensitive urban design. Today's concept I'm going to share with you comes from Dan Pink's book, When. Now it's actually Dan Pink talking about research by an economist, Lisa Kahn, but nonetheless it got me thinking about water-sensitive urban design. But only insofar as it generated a tiny little hypothesis in my head that I want to share with you, because it got enough attention for me. It might only be a hypothesis, but it got my attention enough to make me want to put this out there, have a little chat about it, and see whether anyone else has got any ideas to throw back at me about this. So let's get into it. What was this idea that I came across? So as I said, Dan Pink, the book's When, the research is by Lisa Kahn. And broadly speaking, what the research says is that when people enter the job market after graduating from college or university, has a dramatic influence on both how far up the corporate ladder they rise and how much money they make into the future. And not just immediately, but for a long time into the future. Specifically, graduates who enter the job market straight after college in poor economic times show decreased earnings for as long as 20 years later in their career. For example, when people were surveyed 15 years after graduating, the people who had graduated in poor economic times were still making 2.5% less than those with exactly similar degrees, similar backgrounds, controlling for ethnicity, race, sex, all sorts of things. People who had graduated in poor economic times were still earning 2.5% less per year than people who had graduated in good economic times. Okay, I spat that out, I got that out there. The point being, if you graduate in poor economic times, it has a long-term impact on your earnings and your career potential possibilities. What this got me thinking about with respect to WSUD, and frankly it could be in any environmental concept, is could a similar thing be playing out here? So, to understand this, at the heart of this, we have to realize that at the heart of Lisa Kahn's work is the fact that the economy goes through cycles. You have good economic times and you have poor economic times, and then they come back to good and it cycles around and changes. Well, ideas like water-sensitive urban design also go through cycles. I'll propose that anyhow. You might go through times where, so let's take water-sensitive urban design as an example. In the early days, you could consider it as this far-off concept. It sounds great, but it's not very real. So that's one part of the cycle. Then, as technology starts to develop and people start to put some meat on the bones, we go through a phase of, oh, you know what, this is real, and actually this could be really powerful. So there's some optimism in it, there's some good times there. Then you get some, maybe more good times, but with actual implementation. Oh, we've taken the potential and the possibility. Now we're actually doing lots of it. And then maybe there's a downswing. Maybe there's a downswing where people go, oh wait, hang on, this hasn't quite delivered in the way we thought it would. This is a lot tougher to do than we thought it would. People start to get pessimistic about it. We start to see poor assets. We get this downturn. And then maybe you get a swing back in the other direction where people realize, because I'm actually what I'm describing here is this cycle of like optimism, oh we're trying it, oh pessimism, oh we're trying it again cycle. I can't remember the name of that cycle, but it's a well-known curve. So then maybe last we get this upswing. If you know what, it's really, really hard, but we have to do it anyway, so we just got to get into it and do it. The point being, I would propose that WSUD, like any other concept, goes through cycles of its acceptance. So what this got me thinking about is, well, I wonder whether when people first come across the concept of WSUD, or maybe first start working in this sphere, has an influence on their long-term perceptions of it and how they choose to pursue that through their career. So it occurred to me that in my case, and by all means recognize that this is just one case, right? I have no data to back any of this up. But it struck me that I joined the water-sensitive urban design industry, I would say towards the end of the peak of optimism about stormwater treatment objectives. We'd had these objectives coming in South East Queensland about 2006. We'd started to see assets built. When I joined the industry in 2010, there was still stuff going in the ground. There was still a fair bit of optimism. The SPP was about to emerge, But we were on the cusp of people really realizing just how challenging this was going to be and the downswing that's occurred since then. But I would say that I entered in fairly positive times about water-sensitive urban design. And I ended up becoming quite an advocate for it and the concepts, maybe not the exact applications we currently see it, but the broader concepts of it. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who entered the industry at that time took the same path as me. That would be ridiculous. But it struck me, I wonder whether it's more likely for people who entered in that positive time. So imagine if you're someone entering the industry now, and I would argue that perceptions of WSUD are not as good as they were when I entered the industry. I wonder whether you're less likely to then see it as something worth pursuing and worth really getting into and striving for. And I wonder what the implications of that might be. Now, of course, it's not to say that everyone who enters at this time, but what I'm really curious is, are we more likely to? Does the perception of the industry we enter at the time we enter it, I'm describing the hypothesis here that someone would need to test. Does the general perception of the industry that we choose to enter at the time that we choose to enter it have a long-standing effect on the extent to which we choose to advocate and pursue it and really get our teeth into it and try and strive to make it better? That's the hypothesis that I'm curious about based on this research by Lisa Kahn as described by Dan Pink in his book, When. So let's just put it out there. I'm really curious to know, a few things. So a few questions to end this on. Questions for you, the person viewing this. What do you think of the idea? Do you think there's any possibility that there could be a correlation? Or do you think I'm completely barking up the wrong tree? And can you think, so that's question number one. Question number two, can you think of any existing data that might point one way or the other in this respect? Doesn't have to with respect to WSUD, could just be more generally. And number three, what would you propose if someone wanted to investigate this? What would you propose that they did? Okay, that's the episode. I hope you found that interesting. I'm certainly curious, mulling it over, and I cannot wait to hear from you. Ways to send info to me to answer those questions. You can email me, jack.mullally@ideanthro.com. You can comment in whatever forum you're on here. You can comment below, because you can always comment below. You can comment below, or you can head to the Ideanthro website. There's a contact us page. Sweet, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Before you go, our best episodes come from your questions. This knowledge base, these discussions that are Ideanthro improve with your contribution. So if there's a topic, an idea, a concept that you would like us to explore, come and ask us. You know where to find us. www.ideanthro.com/contact. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and that place you get your good podcasts from. You know where to find us. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you soon.